Dear viewers, our topic today is Theories of Colonial Discourses. Theories of colonial discourses have played a key role in the development of post-colonialism. These theories analyze the representations and modes of perception which are employed to keep the colonized peoples in colonial subjugation. At this place, it is advisable to comment on the nature of discourse. A discourse is formal and orderly expression of thought on a subject. According to another definition, a discourse is a set of interconnected assumptions that develops a particular understanding. So, a discourse produces claims to knowledge, and the acceptance or internalization of these claims gives it its power. Colonialism thrives on discourses. Discourses are employed to perpetuate the values and assumptions of the colonizers as regards the ways they perceive and represent the world. It is done through the persuasive power of language. Language is not merely a means of communication, it also affects our perception of reality. In this context, Gugi says language carries culture, and culture carries the entire body of values by which we come to perceive ourselves and our place in the world. Language is thus inseparable from ourselves as a community of human beings with a specific form and character, a specific history, a specific relationship to the world. As Gugi stresses, language does not just passively reflect reality, it constitutes reality. It shapes our understanding of the world and determines our values. In the context of colonialism, language serves a specific purpose. It inculcates a particular value system and cultivates a deliberate perspective. Colonialism also deprives its victims of their identity. It deals a lethal blow to their self esteem. In this regard, an eminent psychiatrist, Fanon, shares his personal experiences in his book Black Skin, White Masks. Fanon describes how he was subjected to the psychological trauma during his imprisonment. In the chapter The Fact of Blackness, he records his humiliating experience in the following words: I took myself far off from my own presence, far indeed, and made myself an object. What else could it be but an amputation, an excision, a hemorrhage that spattered my whole body with black blood? But I did not want this revision, this thematization. All I wanted was to be a man among other men. Fanon's identity is defined in negative terms by the colonizers. He is forced to see himself not as a human subject but as an object of ridicule. He is at the mercy of some people who identify him as inferior and less than fully human, subject to their definitions and representations. The image of amputation effectively conveys the concept of the revision of his identity. Fanon cannot define his own identity as a subject. Identity is something that the French make for him, and in doing so, they tear it to shreds. It is their power of description which cuts him to the quick. He is traumatized because of inferiority complex. In a broader context, black skin, white masks highlights the consequences of identity formation for the colonized subject. The concept of identity formation derives from the binary of self and other. The colonizers are civilized, rational, intelligent, whereas the colonized lack all these qualities. So, the colonized is forced to accept himself as an other, the one who is bereft of all the good qualities. In consequence, he tries to adopt the Western ways of life. But however hard he may try to be like them, he is never accepted on equal terms. It is this which makes Fanon say, "The white world barred me from all participation. A man was expected to behave like a man, I was expected to behave like a black man." The imaginative distinction that differentiates between man or self with black man or other is the cornerstone of colonial domination. It imprisons the mind as securely as chains imprison the body. For Fanon, the end of colonialism meant not only political change but also psychological change. Another intellectual who related literature to social and cultural issues is Edward Said. In his epoch-making book Orientalism, Said examines the divisive relationship between the colonizer and the colonized. He comes out with the conclusion that colonialism created a wide-ranging body of knowledge which supported the divisive practices of colonial government and settlement. Orientalism is influenced by Marxist and post-structuralist theories of power, especially the political philosophy of Gramsci and Michel Foucault. It examines how Western imperial powers justified the subjugation of their colonies through their knowledge. According to Said, Western nations like France took great pains to produce knowledge about the locations they dominated. Representations of Egypt and the Middle East were based upon written materials, not on first hand experiences. These representations were based upon commonly held assumptions about the Orient as a mythic place of exoticism, moral laxity, sexual degeneration, and so forth. It served to justify the very propriety of colonial domination. Thus, colonialism continuously perpetuated itself. Colonial powers produced a degenerate image of the Orient for those in the West or Occident. With the Orient perceived as inferior, its colonization could be justified in benign or moral terms as a way of spreading the benefits of Western civilization to barbarian natives. Fanon and Said drew the attention of critics to the representation of once colonized cultures. Fanon shows how this works at a psychological level for the oppressed, while Said demonstrates the legitimation of empire for the oppressor. Overturning colonialism, then, is not just about relinquishing power to those who were once colonized. It is also a process of overturning the dominant ways of seeing the world and representing reality in ways which do not replicate colonial values. If colonialism involves colonizing the mind, then meaningful resistance to it requires, in Gugui's phrase, decolonizing the mind. So, real freedom implies a change of minds, a disputing with the dominant ways of thinking, the ability to read and write otherwise, to rethink our understanding of the order of things, contributes to the possibility of change. As Fanon wrote A man who has a language consequently possesses the world expressed and implied by that language. In order to challenge the colonial order of things, some of us may need to re examine our received assumptions of what we have been taught as natural or true. In conclusion, we can say that colonialism suggests certain ways of seeing, specific modes of understanding the world. These ways of seeing, attitudes, and values are at the root of the study of colonial discourses. Colonialism is destroyed only once its ways of thinking about such matters, such as identity, are successfully challenged. Thank you very much.